Right? Everybody good to start the show proper?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. New animation? What new animation is that? I don't... I'm scrolling up. I don't see anything about animation in there. I'm so confused. The Manapool logo? Oh. Oh, dude, that's not new. Scott made that for me like a while ago. On my usual stream screen, it just lights the logo, the Manapool logo that's already in the corner. It lights it on fire. And it looks really cool. Oh yeah, we are always around. You can't kill us, and they've tried.
We totally have persist. We are some persistent sons.
Yeah. Well, that's a minute of recording, so surely the recording has kicked in by now. So let's get to it.
Arza.
Ow, jam. Hello, Al. Everyone, I cracked my knuckles just as I said that for some reason, and one of them really hurt. And you know what? I'm not redoing this. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Manapool. This is episode 707 of the Manapool, and I am Chewy. And
Chewy.
And my hand, despite, I think I've washed my hands twice since dinner, my hand still smells like burrito. Because I had one of those burritos that wouldn't stay together.
Oh,
So my hand, my left hand was just drenched in burrito juices and whatnot the whole time I was eating it. Whew. Anyway, hello.
Yeah, it'll take a really good scrub to get the oil out of your skin.
So, that's me. I got these other dorks here. As you can tell, Mike's back, but it's not his turn. So who are you people?
I'm Brian. I'm the lead Rambler Tangent Master of the group, and I've been here all along. Like I didn't go anywhere. So I know you've been gone for a while, but it's your turn.
Yeah,
so.
that's all my fault.
Wow.
I'm Mike. I'm the rules guy and the game lore guy, and I go after Brian.
And I'm Dirk, the self-proclaimed greenest man alive and moral compass of the group. And we are really bad at transitions and this game.
Especially this game. Can we get some bad at this game in the chat, please? So, hello. Last week we were unmiked. Dismiked? Non-mic'd?
D-mic'd?
D-mic'd. That's the best one, I think.
I like that. Yeah.
And yet you could still hear what we were saying. But now we have a mic. But we decided at the end of the last episode we're going to look at all the fears in Duskmourn. Because there are... It's not a cycle so much as just a crap load of creatures named Fear of, and then whatever thing that there's a fear of.
Yeah.
And I have not read very many of these. I've looked at the titles, the names of all of them, but I haven't actually read the cards.
Yeah.
But
whereas
I want to talk about the cards. I want to talk about what the fear actually is and whether or not we are afraid of these things.
Yeah. Whereas, like, my experience last week, I was like, I haven't looked at most of these cards. And then I went to the pre-release with Sam over the weekend. And so now I'm actually familiar with a lot of these. So, plus it's out on Arena now. But yeah, so do you want to tackle these in order or just kind of jump around or what?
I
Stick
figured we
around.
just start at the top and work our way down.
All right. So
By the way, how did you guys end up doing? You were 1-0 when I left because I swung by to say
Yeah.
hi, and Sam was
Yep.
0-1.
I ended up. I won the first round, lost the second one, and then won the third. So I was 2-1, and then we were having dinner at my parents, and between rounds going long and other things, we had to cut out after that. So unfortunately, we didn't get to play round 4. So I was 2-1. Sam was 1-2 because she got the bye in round 3. So she lost the first 2 rounds. Was still having a lot of fun, and then no, she didn't actually get the bye. Her opponent just didn't show up for the last round, so she got a free win in the last round that we were there for. But she had a good time. She opened up the green overlord and the white overlord and was just giggling a lot. But she will tell you she usually gravitates toward blue, and she was a little disappointed there weren't any great blue cards in her pool. Um, but yeah. And Chewy, in the last round that we played, I won with the room deck. I won with the room, which we'll get back. We'll get to that later.
Wow.
But it was awesome. So we had a good time, and everybody at House of Cards in Winston was fabulous.
Nice.
So
It had been a very long time since I had been there because I walked in and I'm like, I thought there was a pre-release. Where the hell is everybody? And then I turned my head to the right and saw that there was a whole other part of the store over there that was not there before. And I went,
Mhm.
oh, there they are.
yeah, that's been there for a little while. So yeah, it's. But when's the last time you did a pre-release?
I don't even remember.
It's a very long time, I'm sure.
Did you go to Wilds of Eldraine?
I went to the original
No.
Eldraine.
Oh, that's what I meant. Eldraine.
Oh.
Yeah.
Throne of Eldraine.
Throne of Eldraine. There it is.
Wilds, Throne, Throne Wild.
Yeah,
Gone,
I went
Throne,
to
yeah.
original Eldraine and maybe one since then, maybe?
Yeah, the other room might not have been open yet.
No, it was not.
Hmm.
Yeah.
All right
He
then.
totally was like, but anyway. So I've seen a lot of these. For example, the fear of abduction. This thing is a little crazy, and I like how there's a pretty clear nod to what this is symbolizing in popular culture. Fear of abduction for 4 and 2 white is a 5/5 with flying. So for 6 mana, 5/5 with flying, uncommon. As an additional cost to cast this spell, exile a creature you control. When Fear of Abduction enters, exile target creature an opponent controls. When Fear of Abduction leaves the battlefield, notice it's not just die, but when it leaves for any reason, put each card exiled with it into its owner's hand. So no, you can't get cute with Phage, Chewy. Phage, Face Butcher. What's the butcher?
Faceless
do?
butcher.
The faceless butcher. Face Butcher butchers your face. But yeah, so 5/5 flyer.
Wait, why you say that like it was me? I'm the one that died today.
You were the one victim of. Yes, I know. I know that. Yeah. Yeah. But for 6, you get a 5/5 flyer. It does have the additional cost because you have to have at least a creature out when you cast it. But then you get to O-ring their thing, and then keep in mind that if they ever kill this, they don't even get it back on the battlefield. It goes back to their hand. So it's pretty good. It's not crazy, but it's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean it's essentially an angel with a double O-ring attached, almost.
Yeah.
Because when you said it, 6 mana for a 5/5 flyer, my brain went angel, and it just stayed
Yeah.
there. Even though the art has a big gray alien head.
Yeah. And all of these fear ofs creatures are nightmares, by the way, if I didn't say that. So
Oh yeah,
which,
and this one's uncommon.
Chainer's like, yes.
We're old.
But yeah. I mean, now a couple people at the pre-release, mentioned, okay, Thunder Junction felt weird, cowboy hats and all that, but still felt like relatively high fantasy, just with a bit of a Western twist. Between the TV screens, which come up a
Hmm.
lot in this set, and the aliens and all that, more than one person said they felt like this was really getting away from the aesthetic of that Magic has been. And I guess I come to their defense of Magic's team to try to push this in different directions because the game's been around for 30 years. So is it 25 or 30? It's been around for a long time. 30, yeah, 30 years.
It's been around for
Um,
166 years.
so I don't mind them exploring different stuff, but it is a little jarring. You remember when we went back to Kamigawa and everything felt very like modern circuits and stuff. I was like, so
But for
I
some
don't
reason
blame.
that worked. For some reason that just really, really worked.
Did it?
Yeah, with the whole Neo Tokyo setting, basically.
I guess. I don't know that I was the biggest fan, but I get where you're coming from, and that's maybe part of the point. Is it's going to hit different people differently.
Hmm.
Pretty much everybody loved the set, though. Nobody minded the mechanics. So here you have an alien, fear of abduction. I don't have this fear, but some people legitimately do, and I will say, while it's not fear of myself, in the weeks leading up to Sam starting kindergarten, I had this, I want to say it's a nightmare, but it was more just while I was awake. I just would have this irrational fear of I'm going to drop her off and some bad person's going to come up behind her and I'm never going to, like, somehow between me dropping her off and her going into school, and I'm never going to see her again because you hear about it in the news and all that sort of stuff. And it took her going for a while that I kind of came down a bit. So not so much for myself, but for the people I care about, maybe. But otherwise, I don't think this one really applies to me.
Renee has specifically a fear of the little gray aliens. She's like,
Okay.
it's my one irrational fear. She doesn't. I don't know if she saw Signs too young. You remember that movie?
I remember.
Or what?
Tell me
Yeah,
away,
I
Merle.
guess they were kind of grays. Yeah.
Yeah, but she does not. I sent her this card. I was like, "Hey, they made a magic card about you," and I can't tell you on this family show what she said back to me, but it was sort of like fire truck,
Hmm.
and then you. Take some letters out of that. You might be able to figure it out.
Oh yeah, I think I've decoded your incredibly complex
Yeah.
codex.
But yeah, she said, and when we were early into our dating, I say when we've only been going out for a year and change, but still when we were earlier into our dating, we tried watching this because she had this fear. We tried watching this really bad documentary that took itself very seriously about a dude who claims to have been abducted so many times, and he has all this video footage of aliens, and they're all like little models, little, like, they're blatantly fake. It's not even close. And this documentary was treating it as if this was not very funny. I wish I could remember what it was called now. But like, this was not a parody. He's like, here's my footage, and like, there you can see the alien creeping around the corner. I'm like, it's a mannequin. What? It's a little. What are you talking about?
Uh-huh. But she couldn't finish it.
Actually, it didn't bother her so much that she fell asleep because it was so stupid.
She had a limit.
Those aren't the real grays.
Yeah.
It's actually scary.
It was while we were watching this that I found out she had this fear, and then she goes, "But this isn't bothering me at all because this is ridiculous." But yeah, I mean, I think all of us to some extent have a fear of getting snatched, but it's only like a vague sort of underlying, like, intellectually aware of the possibility thing for
Right.
most of us.
Yeah.
Whereas this, yeah. So,
Like,
okay.
like Mulder's sister, I'm sure messed up a bunch of kids.
Did they ever conclude that storyline?
A couple times, yeah.
They did.
They did what?
They did conclude that. Must have been during the movie or something.
Oh no, it was in the when it came back for three seasons, several years ago.
Oh.
I know we talked about this at some point because I was rewatching all of X-Files. I watched all of the stuff and then watched the first movie and then watched more of the stuff and then watched the second movie and then I watched the 2 or 3, I forget, seasons when it came back. And yeah, I learned in that time that I really hate the lore episodes and desperately love all of the weird creature of the week and goofy episodes. And I'm convinced that is the objectively right way to appreciate X-Files. Because they had to rewrite the lore so many times. It was not very well handled back in the day. Like, who was Mulder's father? Oh. And then later it's like, no, that was Mulder's father. Oh. And then later, no, that was Mulder's father. I'm like, can we stop, please?
I thought it was either the CSM or the T1000, but I don't know. I never watched more than like 2 episodes a season, so.
And hopefully you watch the better ones.
I enjoyed some. There was an episode with vampires where they tied people's shoelaces together. It was kind of hilarious.
Yes, there was. Anyway.
I think I've only seen one episode of the X-Files, and it was the one with that mutated family.
Oh, no, that's the worst episode. As far as, making you want to claw your own brain out.
Yeah, it was. Ugh.
The girl I was seeing in high school was tickled pink that there was an X-Files that took place in North Carolina, and they talked about like Chapel Hill and other stuff, and we were at Chapel Hill High School at the time. So she's like, hey, it's like when, I'm sure that people that live in New York are just, they could care less because New York is featured in everything forever. But she was all like, that, that's where we live. And I'm like, yeah, that's pretty cool. There was a mountain that ate people.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome.
All right, we're done talking about magic. We're going to talk about
lot.
X-Files for the rest of this.
That's one fear. So, next fear.
That's what I was going to say. Chifuji just said New York as usually portrayed by Toronto.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure people in New York are actually more pissed about things taking place in New York and not being in New York. All right, second fear. The fear of immobility. For 4 and a white is a 4/4 nightmare. That one is common. Oh my god. Speaking of fear, something just touched my back, and it turns out it was my fleece throw that I've got in this chair just fell down from the top, and as it crumpled up, it poked me in the back. And okay, so for 6 mana, for 4 and a white, it's a 4/4. When it enters, you tap up to 1 target creature. If an opponent controls that creature, put a stun counter on it. Pretty sure I saw Brian use this to not die twice in the one round I was there for.
Cool.
This thing is great. It's a common. You're probably going to see it, and it's a 4/4 for 5 without evasion, but then it locks down an opponent's creature. In theory, you could use it to trigger your own survivor, like as long as this is tapped at the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, do whatever. But I only ever saw it used to tap down somebody else's thing, put a stun counter. Lots of stun counters in this set. Oh my god. like a lot more than the last couple sets. But yeah, this is a good card for a common because for limited this is a very good card. Um, yeah. As far as the fear itself, I've heard of people having a fear of that they will find themselves paralyzed or otherwise immobilized. Don't
Yeah.
know that I've
Also,
really.
this is like a different way to word claustrophobia too. Like people, I know that people who have varying degrees of claustrophobia don't like it when you like pin their arms to their side.
Hmm.
Hmm.
That makes sense. Can't get away.
Mhm.
Yeah. The little anecdote described in the flavor text here is like the an ending to like a recurring bad dream theme that I've had ever since I'm a little kid. I still get it once every
Ooh.
couple of years now, where just something's going on. I'm in some kind of danger and I need to run somewhere or push something out of the way or shout, and it's just like my arms don't move, my legs don't move, my voice doesn't work. Very unpleasant.
I have no mouth and I must scream. Dogs and cats living together. No, that's different. Yeah, Chifuji said, would this be similar to sleep paralysis as well? And I mean, yeah, that is. I think sleep paralysis is the fear of immobility because you're awake and you can't move, and then
Right.
depending on how your brain interprets it, something is coming and sitting on you or whatever. Fun fact: sleep paralysis used to be called old hag. I think that your brain plays on like common, like for people. At least this is my take on it. I'm sure there's no scientific basis for what I'm about to say, but it feels like from the way history has portrayed sleep paralysis, it used to be called old hag because some hag or imp or demon or something would come and like sit on your chest while you were sleeping.
Yes, I've
Hmm.
heard of that
But
too. Yeah.
as our common uh, experiences have moved away from hags and imps and demons, now people with sleep paralysis have aliens come into the room and look at them
Mhm.
while they
Oh,
can't do
There you go.
anything. Going back to the fear of
Yeah.
abduction. So I've
Yeah.
always found that fascinating. That your brain will draw from other experiences and thoughts and things running around in your head to interpret your sleep paralysis and show you horrible things.
Sometimes I feel like my brain is my own worst enemy. Most of the time we get along great, but especially as a kid, if I was like, there's a thought I don't want to have, so my brain is automatically like, then
Let's
that's
have
all
that
you're gonna
thought.
think about. Like I literally felt like, is there something wrong with me that my brain was this disobedient? And I found out no, a lot of people deal with that. And as I've gotten older, I don't have that issue, but it almost felt compulsive at times. So that's a little something you didn't know about me.
you mentioning that made me think of something. I'll try to get it before the show's over.
Okay.
Oh, this is not for the show. Since Mike
Well,
mentioned the flavor
you guys
text.
would also know it, and I don't want to spread the unpleasantness.
Oh, well, that's fair, I guess.
Gotcha.
Since Mike mentioned the flavor text, it says, as it slunk toward her, Nina told her legs to run, but they stayed rooted and rigid. She screamed, but no sound left her lips. God, that is awfully,
Yeah.
what's the word? Vivid there.
Yeah.
Ugh.
They did a very good job in this, not just of like, okay, here's these fears, but like describing them in such a way that they feel it's not just this foreign thing, like, oh, I see how that could be a problem for somebody. No,
Hmm.
it's like in your own mind now. So good
In
on
your
them.
head. In your head. No, wait, no. Are there zombies in this set? There should be.
I honestly don't remember.
Yes, there's at least one. There's one that's a track star.
Oh yeah, I forgot about him. Because when I saw him and I thought, oh, it's oh crap, what was the name of that game? Ben and Ed, I think.
I don't know.
I don't know.
It's a game where you're a zombie, and your little human friend is taken, and you are off to try to save him. But you're running through. He's taken for a game show, because you're a contestant, and they need to motivate you. And the various traps and whatnot can take off your arms and legs, and even make it to where you're just a bouncing head. Because you're a zombie, you can stay alive. And then when you get to the end of a level, or not a level, and the end of a world, I don't know how it's done, and you get to the kid, or this might be at the end of the game and I might be spoiling it, but whatever. When you get to the end and you reach the kid, what your zombie character does is start eating him, and I just always thought that was really hilarious. Anyway, so fear of immobility. I mean, I don't especially like not being able to move, but I don't think it unlocks any sort of fear in me. It's just annoying. Like, damn it, let go of me.
Yeah.
And I don't have that fear that recurring dream that Mike does. My recurring dream is a different one that Mike also has every once in a while.
Yeah.
I gotta say, with most of these, of course, when we're saying that, oh, that one doesn't apply to me or whatever, we're not saying like that sounds like a picnic. Nobody would want to be immobilized or anything like that. It's just we don't necessarily have a strong connection to that fear that we think has come up in our lives, right? So, in which case, that I agree with Chewy. Like, I wouldn't want to be restrained and mute and all that sort of stuff, but it's not something that keeps me up.
Yeah.
So next, however, is a fear that I think has only gotten more and more relevant in today's age, and look no further than the Will Smith film of, when did that come out? Like,
Long
I
time
think
ago.
it was 1990s, of Enemy of the State. Fear of surveillance.
Oh, I was thinking you were talking about iRobot.
Well,
I
that-
see what you did there.
That too, yeah.
a film where Will Smith is playing. I'm trying to draw the connections here. Is playing an unwitting participant in a greater conspiracy where it turns out that they're being observed more than they thought. That's pretty vague. Anyway, somebody else talk about this card because I've already read one.
Well,
Dorks,
fear
you
of
spoke up.
surveillance for 1 and 1 white, so grand total of 2. It's a 2/2 nightmare common creature, enchantment creature, that has vigilance. Whenever fear of surveillance attacks, surveil 1. Meaning, look at the top card of your library. You may put it into your graveyard.
Well, that's a really nice little 2/2 for 2 there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 2/2 with vigilance.
And its flavor text says, its unblinking gaze sees every flaw, every shame, every humiliating moment you wish you could forget.
Okay, I identify slightly more with the flavor text than I do the title of the card.
Yeah.
Huh.
There's a card later called Fear of Exposure that I think relates a little bit more to the flavor text. But I could see, again, if you're taking fear of surveillance as fear of being seen when you don't want to be seen, that you have no expectation of privacy, for example. A lot of us will take that in the context of, because again, I think it's somewhat relevant, of the government, of entities that you do not approve of having access to your privacy and things that you want to keep to yourself. But it could also be in this modern age, one of the biggest problems I think with social media is that it's always there. If you're picked in when we were young and you were in school, if you got picked on at school, you went home and hopefully that was the end of it. now, if you get picked on at school and you come home, you're also picked on Instagram, Facebook, all that sort of stuff. You can't get away from it. That's unfortunately why a lot of young people have struggled with image issues. Those issues have kind of always existed, but now it's right there for everybody to see. So, if you have anything that you try to keep to yourself, I think then this thought of not being able to keep it to yourself, not being able to have a private life would be really kind of devastating.
Yeah, and I mean, we're we're all under. If you have a smartphone, then there are dozens of companies out there that know way more about you than you would like them to know,
Yes.
Yeah.
which is a form of surveillance. So
Yes.
yeah, this like these days, fear of surveillance isn't so much a fear as the reality of surveillance, and that's not
Yes.
even counting like video surveillance, like in the UK where there's a camera every 6 inches staring at you.
Oh yeah. They say that London is the most surveilled city in the world.
Yeah, I wonder how long it would take to directly flip off every camera in London.
Hmm. That would be a lifetime assignment.
All right, British people, need some of y'all
They
to
would
get
all
on
have
that.
to unite together for that.
It'd be like planning out a route in that poster sticking game in Kingdom Hearts 2.
Oh, good lord, that freaking poster thing. I was thinking you were going to say like a pub crawl, but you took it in a different direction. So,
Dope ass Disney train. I started Kingdom Hearts, by the way,
I
on
saw.
yeah, I
stream.
saw.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I
Tora
don't like it.
Donald Bluefish.
Sorry, I
The
like
fir-
it more now that I have all my magic. But before I had all the magic, I'm like, I'm just pressing one button. This is boring.
In the first version of the game when there was no skip scene, the fight before you get cure, I probably still talk about fears. I think I still hear not Clayton in my head, like to the point that Carrie and I just
Mhm.
use it as a phrase. If we're just ticked off, I'll just look at her and go, "Not Clayton," and she's like, "Don't you dare."
Anyway, I didn't mean to derail us again.
We're doing that on our own.
That's the white fears. We've gotten through 3. We are good at
Yay.
this.
Well, that's all
let's
right. We're on to blue. Nobody's afraid of blue cards.
Yeah, well, they shouldn't be, because So we've got who hasn't read a card yet?
Mike,
Correct.
calling him out.
All right. The fear of failed tests. So this is uncommon. Costs 4 and a blue for a 2/7.
Whoa.
Whenever fear of failed tests deals combat damage to a player, draw that many cards.
Oh.
Yeah, the flavor
is
text
great.
Well, wait. What do you mean this quiz determines half our grade? And that's attributed to Zimone muttering in her sleep.
Aw.
Which is appropriate because she's a student at Strixhaven.
Mm-hmm.
So
Top student.
as well, yeah, as well as being one of the central figures story-wise in this set.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I did go back and read the story for this set since last week as well.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, like who has not? I'm not even talking about people that are still in school. I'm talking about people like myself that have been out of school for years, even including law school, who has not had the dream where there's a class they haven't been to all semester, which how often does that even happen in real life anyway? But all of a sudden, now you're in it and the big test is today and you have no idea.
That
I have
is
had
the recurring dream that I was talking about earlier that I know that Mike and I have had.
Mm-hmm.
I was about to
I
say,
actually
I
haven't-
remember Mike having this dream.
Yep.
I don't know that I've had it in the last year, but I have had it a lot in my adult life. Probably more than almost any dream I can think of. So I'm with this one, and even now, as a lawyer, I think most people have some form of imposter syndrome, including at jobs where, other people depend on you to do your job. And there are moments where I think almost everyone feels like, okay, this is the aspect of my job I haven't done before or anything like that. And it can feel like you're back in this situation. You're having to deal with something you were not prepared to do. And it all comes back to this root fear right here of failing the test. So, yeah, this is the first one that I really feel like I'm clicking with. Not in a good way, mind you, but in a yeah kind of way.
See, this is the one that Chelsea has also had a recurring nightmare of, um, where she has the dream where she hasn't taken that test, or she has one test that she has to take, and you know she hasn't really gotten her degree or anything, and so she just has that
Oh
fear.
no.
Mm-hmm.
Do what?
I said, oh no.
Yeah, it's that, like, oh no, I'm gonna have to go back to school because I don't actually get mine because I have to take this one more class, or there's this one more
Yeah.
test I have to take, or oh, I forgot to take this test, and all that sort of anxiety. And she says she's woken up in a cold sweat being like, oh, okay, I don't, it was all just a dream.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm good.
Buh. But getting back to the literal version of the fear, failed test. I never really had a fear of failed tests in like a phobic way. I mean, obviously, I didn't want to fail any tests because, you know,
Well, yeah, and like we said,
I wanted to
nobody
get good
really wants
grades.
to go through some of this. Yeah.
I did. I remember just from this conversation, or it could be that I'm making this up. I don't know, but I seem to remember having a dream when I was in college
Mhm.
of like having the one big test and studying my ass off for the one big test and then getting to the one big test and none of the questions are anything that I've ever heard of before ever.
Mm.
That
I didn't realize we had to know about biology in, literature class.
I mean not that bad, but
Still, I think my example is probably not correct, but I get where you're coming from.
yeah. It I think that might have been during a especially stressful exam period. Probably.
Sounds like it.
But I do like the card. I realized we never actually mentioned the card at all. It's got a nice big ass, so it can survive long enough to hopefully get in some damage and draw you some cards.
Yeah. I wasn't. Um, I didn't have it. One opponent did have one of these, and in the third round, he said that he'd gotten it out every game, and for its cost, it was a lot of work to try to get it to connect. So
Yeah.
it's one of these things that looks great, and granted, this is a very small sample size, but he felt like it looked better on paper than it was performing in practice.
Yeah, I think I feel like there was something, I can't remember if it was printed in one of the old Kamigawa sets, one of the old Ravnica sets with the same cost, but only 5 toughness. And that was one of those things that I tried. I'm like, this is clunky. So I guess it hasn't really gotten any better with 2 more toughness.
Yeah, it seems like the
it
sort
is
of
hard
thing.
to kill, but
It seems like the sort of thing that you would use basically with lure, like to force your opponent to block something so something else could get in for damage.
yeah.
Because given taking 2 damage or taking 2 damage and letting you draw 2 cards, yeah, your opponent's gonna block this. Like they might even let in something with 3 or 4 power in to keep you from drawing 2 cards. Because drawing, especially in limited, having your opponent draw 2 cards essentially for free is really bad.
Oh, I think it's objectively a good card. It just requires a little more setup. But I don't think there's any indication this is bad, and this effect is honestly very good. You just have to have something else to make it work. Like you said, something else to block, or to let through, or something else like that. Yeah. Uh, Anything else about fear of failed tests? Because this next one is actually, again, after the first couple not really applying, now we're 2 for 2 in blue for me. This is the fear of falling. For as far as the card, for 3 and 2 blue, it's a 4/4 with flying. Of course it is, because falling and flying are very close together. Just ask Buzz Lightyear. It's an uncommon, and whenever it attacks, target creature defending player controls gets -2/-0 and loses flying until your next turn. Because it falls. I like it. The flavor text. It had been months since Jacob had started falling, but only a few weeks since he'd run out of breath to scream. Now, I think that's
Jesus.
great, but the here's the weird thing to this. I think after a couple months of falling, I would just, if I hadn't hit the ground yet, I'd just be so bored with it. I'd be like, I'm not even scared anymore. And I say that as someone that actually has this. I used to think I was afraid of heights. And it was doing some rides in Disney or a theme park, doing a roller coaster or something. I had this revelation of I'm actually okay. I can be in a building that's high up. I legit, and it's been a while since I've tested this, so I haven't really, I don't know if this is still true to me, but I feel like I have a fear of falling.
Hmm.
If I have the sensation of it, then it then I may not be okay with it. Now it's interesting because like if I'm doing the Tower of Terror, sticking with the Disney theme, which is basically you're in a room and the small room is falling, I'm still strapped down. So depending on the if I'm in a larger area like that versus like free falling, forget about it. You will never catch me skydiving. If I ever say I want to go skydiving, check with my doctor. I probably have a terminal disease, and this is how I'm choosing to go out because I would never willingly step off that plane. So, yeah, this one hits home for me pretty hard. Card's great. 4/4 for flying, 4/4 for 5 with flying. That also has the additional bonus of something else can't block it when it attacks. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, like
It
there's
actually is.
there's always the, something can't block this turn type of thing,
Mhm.
but when it's a creature with evasion
Yeah.
that removes a blocker every time it attacks.
And that also means your other flyers aren't getting blocked by that creature either.
Yeah, and then it drops them on the ground, but they lose 2 power, so they're being defanged at the same time. Like I really
Yeah.
like this
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
And
in a
because it
limited
loses
setting.
the power until your next turn on the swing back, it's still
Oh,
smaller.
I missed that.
It's still falling
That's
or
gross.
dazed from falling or whatever. Yeah. Yeah, this is a good card. How do you guys feel about the fear?
I mean, I hate it
Oh,
when I
and
lean back too far in my chair and then I go, oh god. But
and if he's still here, have a good night, Shifuji. He had to leave.
he's
They had to
been
leave.
gone. Yeah.
That was a while ago.
Been
Yeah.
gone. Okay, I'm not good about checking the chat. So sorry, but keep going. Totally fear falling. Yes,
I
leaning back in the chair.
I mean, I hate that, but I've always wanted to go skydiving. So clearly I don't have a fear of falling like that.
Good for you.
I have no intention of jumping out of a perfectly good airplane.
You're assuming it's good in the first place.
I'm assuming if it's still flying and not plummeting, then I will probably not be jumping out of it.
That's a good point.
If it's
I
falling,
only
then I really have nothing to lose now, do I?
No, that's a good point. It's just, uh, even now when I get on commercial air flights, I still say a quick uh, Hail Mary or what have you on takeoff. Once I'm in the air, I'm okay. Taking off is worse than landing. Anyway, I feel like I'm talking a lot this time. I didn't mean to talk over Dark. You're good as long as it stays up in the air.
Yarp.
Mike?
No, this isn't something I've ever really dwelt on or got hung up on.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. So next up we have the fear of imposters. Not fear of being an imposter.
Yeah.
That's different. For
Imposter
one
syndrome is a different thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
For one blue, this is a 3/2 with flash. It's uncommon. This one. When Fear of Imposters enters, counter target spell, its controller manifests dread. So real quick, Brian's opponent in round 1
Yeah.
came up with a crazy, what was it, 8-9 mana combo
Yeah.
Okay.
with playing
There's
the worm. There's a worm in this set that can't be countered.
Yeah. It costs 5.
It costs, okay, yeah. So it's a worm that says can't be countered, and then you play Fear of Imposters, targeting it, and he's
You
like,
played. Yeah.
"Do you get the worm and the 3/2, and do you manifest dread?" And at the time, I didn't know this was a creature. I thought it was just a counterspell, and everyone was talking like it was Brian and his opponent, and then this dude who was sitting next to them.
Who turned out to be my next round opponent. Moses.
Oh yeah, he did. I saw that before I left.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then I was there too, and they were all trying to figure out if this 8 mana combo worked the way he thought. Essentially, getting 3 creatures for 2 cards.
Yeah.
Mhm.
A worm and a nightmare and a manifest.
Yeah, and I asked in the Discord, if you counter, can you still try to counter something that says can't be countered?
Yeah.
With a counter spell, or is it just not targetable? Because someone, I think it was, I don't remember if it was Brian or his round 2 opponent, said, well, it tries to do everything it can. And I'm like, yeah, but can you target it in the first place? Because I wasn't aware of how it worked. And then I saw that the Fear of Imposters was a creature and it was an enters the battlefield ability. And I was like, oh, yeah, that works exactly the way you think it does.
Yeah.
Yeah, but even so,
really...
even so, it follows the principle of you do as much as you can, skip the impossible parts.
Well, yeah.
There's no rule in the game or function of any mechanic that says a spell that says this can't be countered somehow has hexproof from spells or abilities that say counter that.
And that's the difference. Is it can still be targeted, it doesn't do anything. I played in at least one draft where there was an uncounterable troll, and my only way out was the counter spell in my hand, and I played it, and then nothing happened. I'm like, why? And I'm like, oh wait, because it's uncounterable, and now I'm down this card, and I can't counter the next thing he plays. Awesome. Yeah. It was a discussion because none of us had actually seen the card before. So I also didn't even realize initially it was a creature like Chewy. So, and I was thinking of the rule of like, okay, if a spell only has one target and that target becomes illegal, it doesn't that's countered, right? But this is not something where the spell itself is not countering, it's a triggered ability. So there's a lot of discussion about it, and it's just funny that we see it now, but that's also a lot of mana for 3 creatures when you could be countering something else. I also misread this. I thought it said when this enters counter target spell, and you manifest dread. I'm like, this card is insane. This card is just crazy. Why is everyone not playing this card? And
Legacy
then
staple.
Yeah.
and then somebody pointed out like, no, it's
Yeah, that
the
was also me.
controller
I
of
was
the
like,
card.
Brian, it's not that good. Read it again. It's
Yeah.
controller manifested dread. And he was like, oh, thank God.
Yeah, I think I actually said yes. That's this is a good thing. It's one of those like, and they've done a lot of counter spells. I feel like lately where it's like counter it, but if they still get to keep the spell for some like counter unless you pay 2. If they pay 2, then you still get to do something or whatever. So this feels kind of in the same vein where it's like, sorry, I countered your spell. Yeah, have some gold creature, something, you know. I don't have a fear of imposters. I think everyone has struggled a bit with a like, wow, do they really let me do this sort of imposter syndrome? But I'm not really concerned that the people around me are not who they appear to be or anything like that.
Yeah, I looked this up while we were talking because I couldn't remember the name of it. So there's a condition called the Capgras delusion or Capgras syndrome, where a person believes the people around them, people they know, have been replaced with imposters.
Yeah.
Secret
It's like
War.
some sort of weird short circuit in the way a person's brain lets them recognize other people, where they suddenly don't. They just know that they're absolutely convinced that they've been replaced with doubles.
I mean, there was a woman in the 1940s, maybe, who was convinced that her child had been replaced by a changeling.
Mm-hmm.
So
Didn't they turn that into a movie?
they did.
Was Angelina Jolie in that movie?
Wait, I thought that was she was like the cops were saying, "Hey, we found your abducted kid," and she was like, "This isn't my baby," and they're like, "Shut up, yes, it is."
I think we're talking about the same thing.
How
I
many
think
other
it depends
babies do you
on.
think we could find out here? Psst.
It was either Angelina Jolie or another famous actress whose name escapes me at the moment. So
It was
probably
Angelina
Angelina
Jolie.
Jolie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So this card reminds me of a Stephen Wright joke. Just to take things in a slightly lighter direction, where it goes something like, last night someone broke into my apartment and replaced everything I owned with an exact duplicate. When I pointed this out to my roommate, he said, do I know you?
I hadn't heard that exactly like that. That's cool.
I love Stephen Wright.
I love Stephen Wright.
There's
But
a
yeah,
penny
I mean,
arcade.
do what?
There's a penny arcade where Tycho is talking to Gabe, and he says this person came into my house yesterday and was saying that it was his house and not mine, and the police had to come and take him away. But I got to thinking later, how do I know this house is my house? How do I know that this wife is my wife? And Gabe's looking at him. He's like, "So what are you gonna do next?" He's like, "Well, clearly I have to leave. This isn't my family," and I'm not retelling it exactly correctly, but it was funny when they did it. Shall we move on to the next?
No. I think
No?
that this fear of imposters has been amplified by the weirdo QAnon people who think that a bunch
Oh.
of our world leaders are lizard people
Lizard
or
people.
some nonsense.
Oh, uh-huh.
And I think that's ridiculous, obviously, but it does like play on a very real fear that the people that you depend on to do things aren't doing things in your best interest, which
Yeah.
I mean, like, they're not. Like, human resources is not here to work for you. Human resources works for the company.
Mm.
I think a lot of extreme fears start in a grounded place. Like, oh, I'm afraid that, this thing is happening, and then they get magnified. And they get magnified by people that are trying to manipulate you.
Yeah. All right. So fear of isolation.
Fear of Isolation for 1 and a blue. So for 2 total mana, it's a 3/4. Sorry, my bad. 2/3. I is good with numbers.
You gotta
It's a
remove that
2/3.
+1/+1 counter
He
before you read
doesn't-
the
I'm
card
about to
first.
say.
He doesn't
So-
teach math, guys.
I don't. So for 2/3, it has flying, and as an additional cost to cast this spell, return a permanent you control to its owner's hand.
Yeah, it's your classic, slightly undercosted creature that makes you bounce something else.
Mm-hmm.
But has flying, so it's not bad.
Yeah, I mean a 2/3 flyer for
No.
2 is pretty sweet,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
especially
And
when
it
it's
lets
one
you-
and a colored. Like,
It lets you reset something that you may also want to play again. Like, for example, because this just says permanent, see, people use this especially with runes or enchantments so that you can re-trigger eerie effects.
yeah, or with any of these other fears. Well, most of these other fears.
Yes. Yes.
So its flavor text says, on the second day after he'd been separated from his friends, Tino worried they'd be panicking at his absence. By the fourth, he was certain they'd never cared for him at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This one,
After
This-
COVID, this one I realized I have this fear.
this one doesn't affect me, but this is not one where, okay, all respect to Renee, and I know there are other people with the fear of abduction and all that, but this is one that I feel like the average person who ordinarily may not be subject to a lot of these fears could develop this fear. That's what makes this one so scary to me, is not that I suffer from it. I don't feel like I do, but the fact that with our things being the way they are in our world today, you could be perfectly fine and then your own life leads you to this. And the problem is that there are things that reinforce this. Once again,
Mm-hmm.
not that social media is the devil, but it actually is. How long would it take for people that are always getting negative feedback to start to come to that same conclusion as the flavor text here of, like, if you separate yourself as like a cry for help, after a while, why is no one noticing me? Which is a complete downward spiral. And no joke, if you are listening to this and you feel like this is applying to you, you need to speak to someone, because someone cares about you more than you realize. They probably have other things going on with their life. That doesn't mean that you are not important to somebody. Seriously, no joke. And again, that's the problem, is this could apply and does apply to so many people.
It's true.
Sorry, just really kind of feeling that one there. And again, not for myself, but I've seen it affect other people. So
Yeah. This sort of thing also is what leads to, via social media and whatnot, is what leads to various extremist belief systems and being an incel and all that.
incel's a big one. Yep.
And like, speaking for myself, I did not, and those of you who were around, like, actually during streams I was probably fine, but I didn't stream a whole lot, or as much as I should have during the whole COVID lockdowns and whatnot, because I was not in a good place. And if you were paying attention, or if you were in the Discord, you probably picked up on some of that from me, because I did not handle that well. Like, I went for months without physically touching another human being, and that did not go well for my brain.
Yeah.
Like, I wasn't isolated as in no one to speak to. I spoke to people all the time, but I didn't have the
The physical.
I was physically isolated, and that was bad.
Right.
which you were doing on purpose because it was what we were all supposed to do.
Yeah.
But it is draining. It really is to not have that contact.
That was the thing that I saw that was very beneficial was introverts. Check on your extrovert friends. They are not okay.
Yeah.
Was what COVID did to us.
Yep.
It's true.
Whew. I feel like this is a heavy one. Should we
Yeah,
keep going, or do
why
I
are we
want to
so
spend
heavy
more time
here?
on?
Quick, do we have any Stephen Wright show?
Well, the one thing that it's with regard to the art, I don't quite see, like, the art is weird, but I don't know if it really fits the card.
Yeah, what the hell
Yeah.
is that? Is that one of the overlords
It's like
or
a
something?
bird with arms, but like extra arms coming
Yeah,
out of the
and there
wings.
is that an eyeball in it. You remember in the original Beetlejuice? I haven't seen the sequel yet, so no spoilers. But how when they were disfiguring themselves, uh, one of them like opened their jaw open
Yeah, Barbara grabbed
wide.
her jaw
Yeah,
and ripped it way open. Yeah.
that's what this looks to me because that looks like there's at least one eye in the jaw, right?
I
So
think so, yeah. And that was my first thought too. Was oh look, it's doing a Beetlejuice thing, but with wings and extra hands, and I don't like it. They sell. I went to see Renee at work, and they sell little plushies of uh, I can't remember their name. Barbara and I don't know, baby Alec Baldwin in those
yeah,
forms, and I almost just was like, hey,
Alan. I can't remember. Keep going.
no, can't think of his name.
It's okay. It's
And
okay.
Renee and I just watched it like last week too. That's the sad part. I'm like the Dietzes. No, that's not their names. The Maitlands. There we go.
Yeah.
But yeah, they sell the little plushies. Those I almost took them up and was like, "Hey, employee discount these for me, would you? Because I must have them." They also had Lydia in her red wedding dress as the third little plush, and I was like, "I don't care about that one, but oh my god, look at these two." But anyway, so
Yeah,
should we
I
get
don't
to
get
this?
the art either.
Should we get to this bonus one?
We can do the bonus one.
This bonus one is silly. So this is only in the Commander decks and the Nightmare bundle. I don't know what that is. It's in the I guess the miracle. I don't know what any of this means down here.
To purchase the Nightmare bundle, you have to have too much mayonnaise on your sandwich the day before, and then let it kick around there for a while.
I mean, that sounds right.
Yeah. So what's it? It's Mike's turn.
Mike's turn.
Yeah. Haven't done
So here
Mad Lib in a
finally
while.
we have the actual fear of sleep paralysis.
Which is
So
just
this
a
is-
weird thing. Yeah.
This is a rare one. This is from the Commander set. It looks like yes. And so for 5 and a blue, it's a 6/6 with flying. It has an eerie ability, which means it likes enchantments in rooms. So whenever fear of sleep paralysis or another enchantment you control enters, and whenever you fully unlock a room, tap up to one target creature and put a stun counter on it.
Stun Gunner's telling you.
And then another separate ability, stun counters can't be removed from permanents your opponents control.
So
Yeah,
mechanically, that's gross.
yeah. That is completely and utterly stupid. It costs 6, so it's not broken,
Mm-hmm.
but that's a lot.
But I mean, you get a 6/6 flyer for that on top of the permanent stuns. Sorry, on top of the sleep paralysis.
So the reason we're kind of like on this name is not because sleep paralysis isn't a real thing. It is, but I feel like it's your fear that is linked to the sleep paralysis, right? But how many people are actually afraid of getting sleep paralysis?
Yeah,
I
like
just
it's just a dumb
yeah.
card name.
Yeah. Fear of that time when you wake up and you thought you had a 20 in your wallet, but you realize that you spent it on something last week, so you don't have it anymore to pay for the gas. Phobia.
Yeah, it's like sleep paralysis is an actual thing.
Yeah.
Is there a fear of cirrhosis of liver?
Maybe for somebody, but
I mean, I know some alcoholics that should have fear of cirrhosis of liver, but they don't, and that's probably why it's going to kill them. I don't know. It's just this one's silly, and I think that's why it's not in the main set.
yeah. Next.
Next.
I mean, unless is there more we can say about it? It's a big beefy guy, but the fear is like this next one. Ooh boy, I don't have, but I've heard of this before.
Really?
In the real world.
I've had this
Yeah.
fear.
Oh.
Okay.
Well, tell us about it then, Dirk.
I've had bad dreams too.
All right. Well, then one of you guys take this one.
Fear of
Let's just
lost
go.
teeth. For 1 black, it's a 1/1 common. When fear of lost teeth dies, it deals 1 damage to any target and you gain 1 life.
Okay, as a common,
And
I like that.
Mm-hmm.
it's short, simple. It could use Death Touch, but otherwise it's really good.
Oh my god.
But Dirk, read the flavor text.
As it drew closer, Sam felt her own teeth wriggle in their sockets as if they wanted to leap out and join the thing.
Ooh.
Yeah, I've had dreams where like
Ooh.
my teeth are just like falling out of their sockets.
I've
Usually
heard
it was a night where I've like was so busy I just fell asleep and I forgot to brush my teeth, and just that feeling and everything just made me be like, your teeth are gonna fall out of your head.
I have heard of this. I have not experienced it, but I've heard it. I've heard it put that way before. Mike, did you say that you've also experienced something like this?
Yeah, bad dreams where suddenly I could feel just teeth coming loose in my mouth, and I'm just like spitting them out into my hand.
Or like you're doing some and like they feel like they're wiggling in your mouth.
Mm-hmm.
And like it's not just like, oh, there's one tooth that's loose and everything. It's like all of them
All of them.
are like loose. And that's the feeling.
Did it make you uncomfortable to hear that flavor text?
No,
Yeah.
it's the personal
Okay.
experience is what makes me uncomfortable.
I gotta tell you, I
I got nothing on
I
this
don't
one.
have this fear. I've never had this fear. Who knows about the future? I got slightly uncomfortable hearing about that. That was very well slash depicted. You know
Mm.
that. Mm.
Buh.
Yeah. Okay.
All right then.
Uh,
Fear of the dark.
so Fear of the Dark, for 4 and a black is a 5/5, so a 5/5 for 5. Um, when Fear of the Dark attacks, if defending player controls no glimmer creatures, it gains menace and death touch until end of turn. The flavor text is the first thing it kills is the light, which is kind of hardcore. Um, I saw a couple of these at the pre-release. Again, the commons you tend to see more of, and it's a 5/5 for 5, which is never horrible. The stat line is pretty good, and a lot of things in the set make glimmers, but it's still never bad. And then if they don't have any, then ooh boy, menace and death touch, you're clearing out at least 2 of their creatures when this attacks. So it's 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 pretty good. As far as Fear of the Dark, I feel like I had it a little bit as a kid, but hasn't bothered me for a while. And it's to the point now, I almost have the inverse of this, where if there's a light on, it's hard for me to go to sleep. we stayed at a hotel in Ocean City, Maryland one time, and despite the curtains, there was a bright light, um, or a brightish light out uh, the left-hand window. Carrie slept fine. I woke up every 40 minutes and kept feeling like it was time to get up because the light was on. So that my brain is like, "Hey, dummy," and I'm like, "I haven't slept." So I have fear of the light when I'm trying to sleep, but the dark itself doesn't really bother me. How about you guys?
I saw a thing a little while ago that said, "You're not afraid of being alone in the dark. You're afraid of not being alone in the dark." And that shook me cuz
Yeah, that puts it in perspective.
yeah, cuz in the dark there's nothing there that's not there when the lights are on, unless there is.
Yeah. Yeah, true.
But
I'm
it doesn't
reminded.
really like I tend whenever I get up like in the middle of the night to go pee, I will, I'll turn on the light in the bathroom cuz there's some people that'll go pee in the dark to not turn the light on cuz they don't want it to wake them up. But I'd rather have better aim than than not be woken up. But then I have discovered, and usually I'll turn on, all the lights along the way. But I've discovered that when Renee's here, I just get up and go in the dark without turning anything on until I get to the bathroom. So, because I don't want to wake her up.
That's thoughtful of you.
But it's
I
weird. So I think I don't like the dark, but I don't have any sort of fear of it.
fear. It's funny. Before we get too far from it, you mentioned the whole. It's the other stuff that's in the dark. I'm reminded because you said you're playing Kingdom Hearts. There's a quote from Kingdom Hearts 2, and spoilers for a 20-year-old. It's at least 15 years old. Kingdom Hearts 2,
I
where
think it's over 20 at
you're
this
with
point.
Kingdom Hearts 2.
Oh,
Well,
from
it's
2?
been
Oh.
While we were in
yeah.
college.
Okay. But game's been out for a long time. Where you're getting ready to face the final boss, and Xemnas says, why do you love the light and hate the dark? And King Mickey says, oh, we don't hate the dark. It's just kind of spooky. And Riku, of all people, who's always been tied to the darkness, answers, it's because of what's hiding inside of it. And that's exactly the quote. And because I've been replaying some of that, and gosh darn it, I'm gonna beat Lingering Will this time, the final super boss that I've never beaten before. But I had that kind of fresh in my mind. So when you said it's the things in the dark, my mind immediately went there. So
Nice.
yeah. Those are the only ones in black. It's interesting, typically black, fear, blah blah. But I appreciate the fact that they've kind of like tried to address these and spread them out a little bit more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did anybody ever watch Are You Afraid of the Dark when you were kids?
Yep.
Oh yeah. The
Cuz
scene,
cuz I didn't.
the
That was a great
episode
show.
with
But it
the
always ended on a like, okay, like usually it's, oh, the whatever it was, it's all better and everything. It was reminiscent of Tales from the Crypt, where you would imagine there'd be a happy ending because it's a kids show, but most times it did not.
a lot of times it didn't. The only episode of Are You Afraid of the Dark that actually creeped me out, there was a movie theater episode where they were showing a Nosferatu movie, and for whatever reason, when I was a kid, that episode bothered me. And I've
Hmm.
always been fond of vampires, but that one got to me where I don't know,
Hmm.
dude's teeth, I guess. They were less like a traditional vampire and more like a vampire rabbit, but they freaked me out.
Huh. See, I never watched the show, but I know you're all just a couple years younger. Well, most of you are just a couple years younger than me. So you probably did.
Yep.
I didn't really do horror until like college. Weirdly.
See, I enjoyed doing the horror stuff through college and everything. And then I think at some point, like The Ring and The Grudge and stuff like that came out. And horror kind of became like super over the top scary. And at that point, I kind of was like, I'm done. And now I actually don't like watching horror stuff or anything like that.
It wasn't fun anymore.
Yeah, it was like, I enjoyed that's weird and all that and everything, but then it just became like uncomfortably creepy.
I think
And at
I
that
think I
point,
get what you're
I
saying.
lost
Yeah.
interest.
I think I get what you're saying. Where if you watch Rosemary's Baby or The Exorcist or something, you can maybe tear yourself away and be like, okay, I get it. Whether it's the
Hmm.
special effects or what. But when you watch The Ring can really get to you. It took itself
Oh, The Grudge is what
kind of seriously.
did me in.
Oh, The Grudge. Yeah.
Yeah, The Grudge is what did me in.
The second
Like
one
The
was
Ring
even
was
worse.
and everything, but I was in college, and so I had roommates, and I wasn't like, okay, I'm good there. The Grudge, the fact that I get under covers, and the thing is under the covers.
Man, that's base. That wasn't even cool.
Yeah, that was as soon as that I was like, no, I'm tapping out. I'm done.
See, now I hear the little boys like death rattle in my head. So awesome.
All
Thank
right,
you,
we
Dirk.
should stop that
We should
now.
keep. Yeah.
Terribly sorry that I
Hey,
asked
hey.
about the old Nintendo show. Jesus Christ.
Hey, Chewy, are you afraid of being hunted?
I mean, I am now. So I guess that was a hint that Brian wants me to read this one. So the fear of being hunted is a 4/2 with haste that must be blocked if able for 1 red. Oh,
Yeah.
it's a
I like
a
this
removal
one.
spell. It makes
Yeah.
no effort to hide itself, savoring its prey's rising panic as the sound of its clacking skull grows closer and closer. Oh yeah, it does have
because it's
because it's split down the middle. Yeah.
I like this card quite a bit, and when I was playing on Arena doing a draft yesterday, I think an opponent actually played this on an empty board and hit me for 4, which is great. But by doing that too early, I was able to use. There's a green spell in here that is a fight spell, but you can reveal a creature from your hand for the fight component. It doesn't even have to be a creature on the battlefield. So I was able to. It almost felt like a 2-for-1 because I got to keep the creature that I would have otherwise lost. But generally, yeah, this is great. And I mean, they can throw glimmers in front of it, but then it'll just stay alive and keep swinging. So.
But yeah,
I don't really
have a fear of
hunted.
being hunted. Yeah, if ever I was to be hunted, I would just die because I am not stealthy. You know how hobbits and elves are forever making fun of the men for being so loud, men and dwarves for being so loud everywhere they go. That's me.
Yeah.
I am men and dwarves. The
The,
Chewie breathes so loud we could shoot him in the dark. I'm like, yes, I do.
That's exactly the quote I was thinking of. Poor Gimli.
I think my very first nightmare that I very much remember was being chased by a saw blade.
What the hell?
Chainsaw or just a regular saw?
No, it's just it's the blade.
Yeah,
Like the blade was just spinning, and it would just follow me. And if I was like, well, I'm going to climb up on something, then it would just climb up whatever it was I was on. And I was like, okay, well, I'll, go and do this, and it would just follow behind me. I'd be walking, and there would be a saw blade eating into the concrete, like shark style,
Yeah.
following
You,
me. And then the one
you,
that woke me, eventually I woke up, and I woke up in a terror, was I was swimming, and it was in the water following me like a shark.
you know, when I was a
Jesus.
kid, when I was a kid, I never really understood the fear of Chucky. I understood some of the fears of, bigger monsters, but I never understood Chucky because I'm like, it's a doll. And I think as an adult, I get it. It's because he's basically indestructible. It's because he will just not stop. He's kind of essentially the parallel to the Terminator. The Terminator, I just watched Terminator Zero, by the way, and it's awesome. But the Terminator simply has no conscience. It can't decide that killing you is the wrong thing because that's all it's there to do. And that's kind of how Chucky is. So I think this fear of the relentless pursuit kind of figures into this. Wasn't there was a movie a couple years ago called It Follows where
Yep.
there was this shadowy demon thing that follows it's kind of an STD parallel where if someone is cursed by it, if they then have sex with someone else, can we say sex on a PG-13 show? I just did, so there you go. Uh, Chewy, edit this later. Uh, the person that person
Sex.
got with becomes the new target. So the question is, are you willing to subject someone else to that to kind of put them in the crosshairs? But this thing cannot be bargained with. It's just going to keep hunting you down. So does that make sense from what you were describing, Dirk, with you and the saw blade?
Well, there's
Like,
lots of things that fall into it. The Grudge is, or not the Grudge, the Ring is synonymous with that as well. There's an episode of the new DuckTales which had to do with whoever's the richest person is being chased by the bomb bee.
I
So
remember that
it's
one.
it's that sort of stuff where it's just that whatever you do, you're constantly being pursued.
Hmm.
And I have no, I mean, it was just whatever the dream was and everything. I don't know why I had the dream and everything, but that was what I remember. Was I guess I had, saw blades were like my dad had been working with a saw blade and everything, and I had seen it and thought, oh well, that's really dangerous and everything, and I'm sure he told me it was dangerous and everything. And then somehow in my dreams, you know, wherever anxiety I was having, it manifested as a saw blade that was just chasing me.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
So I mean,
this
I can't
is.
tell you why. This was
Ow.
something, a dream I had like when I was like probably middle school, elementary, somewhere in that um, time.
Whoa. This is also really popular in horror games. Like, I think the most famous example is probably Resident Evil 3
But the
Nemesis.
thing, oh yeah,
Yeah, because like it's such a big part of Resident Evil 3 that they named it Resident Evil 3 Nemesis. Like the
hmm
Nemesis is coming for you.
it's also in the second one. It was Mr. X or
Yeah.
whatever it was.
Mr. X was just a small part of Resident Evil 2 in the original version from what I understand. His
Yeah,
role
was
was
he didn't
expanded
even
in the
show up.
remake.
He didn't even show up in the first playthrough. But when you finish the first playthrough and you switch to the other character,
Oh.
then I'm pretty sure, right?
I
Yeah,
don't know.
you
Then
I
you
never played the
Mr.
any of
X
the early
shows up
Resident
in the
Evils.
second half.
right. So in the first half, you're learning this is the layout of the police station. This is where I need to go. This is where this stuff happens. So then when you're playing the second half, you're like, oh, I remember this. And then this big guy is like, oh, you do you? Oh, and by the way, I'm here now. And you walk around a corner and he's there. And you're like, poop.
And in addition to that, if you didn't realize that was going to happen and everything, you're going, "Oh no, I need ammo. I need this." And you're going, "Oh no. When I played this the first time, I took everything."
Well, yeah, because it was there.
and then you're like,
Oops.
oh no, I did a
Yeah.
bad thing on that first run.
And then there's this big doofus in a hat who's trying to kill me.
Hmm.
Nice hat, to be fair.
But like this is also like indie horror games. A bunch of them are just fear of being hunted turned into a thing. Like,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
like there's so many like short indie horror games where, hey, there's a thing out there gonna get you. Okay, go. What?
Hmm.
God, like all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah,
Okay.
like I said, I don't really have. I am not the most dangerous game. I've said for years that if there ever is a zombie apocalypse, I'm just gonna be dead, so I don't have to worry about it.
I'll give it a
Cause
shot for a while. I think what's going to kill me in the zombie apocalypse is honestly no more McDonald's. And I mean that almost metaphorically, like, I'm not the hunter gatherer type.
right,
I hunt at the grocery store. When the grocery store runs out, I'm just going to be like, "All right, peace.
guess I'll die.
Guess I'll die." This next one is actually kind of interesting. It's an interesting card, and I don't have this fear, but it's a couple letters off from actually being a fear I had for a very long time.
I'm so curious as to what letters.
Right. Hey, Mike, are you
Yes.
afraid of immolation?
Um, that'd be terrible, but that's another thing that I don't really dwell on. But I've gotten a chance to play this card in Arena recently, and I like it a lot. So the fear of burning alive um, is, let's see, this is uncommon, and it costs 4 red red for a 4/4. When it enters, it deals 4 damage to each opponent,
Hmm.
and it also has a delirium ability. Whenever a source you control deals non-combat damage to an opponent, if there are 4 or more card types among cards in your graveyard, the delirium condition, fear of burning alive deals that amount of damage to target creature that player controls.
Okay, wait. If it deals
So when you
non-combat
hit,
damage to an opponent. Oh, so if
right,
Yeah,
you shock an opponent, you shock all their creatures. Got it.
just one
Sorry, you
target
shock one
creature
of
that
their
player
creatures.
controls. Yes.
yeah, yeah.
Got it.
Is it being buried alive, Brian?
You got it.
Ah.
For a long time, again, it's amazing what you're afraid of as a kid. I was terrified that somebody would think I was dead. I don't know why. I didn't really play dead, but one of my fears was being in a coffin or just being in a hole and being buried. I'm I've gotten over it, I think, but I am even like twitching just a little bit remembering how that made me feel. It's fascinating to me. My understanding is that is not an uncommon fear. That's a fear a lot of people have, and it's
Oh,
not here.
yeah,
So, but
really?
but fear of
having
burning alive is totally here, which I
yeah,
don't know if there's anyone who is specific. I'm sure there's someone because there's a lot of people. But I don't know if there is an appreciable number of people who have a fear of being burned alive. Like that seems to be one of those like general societal fears, but not like a phobia. Like
Hmm.
yeah.
like everyone
Again,
is
like you
aware that
said,
being burned
do,
alive is bad.
yeah, like Chewy, like Mike said, not afraid of it, but don't really want to do it. It's like saying fear of being stabbed 37 times with very specific sharp instruments. I'm like not afraid of it, or I wasn't. Now you're telling me it might happen. I might be like, no,
Yeah, like
please. But
fear of being stabbed 37 times with a sharpened antique spoon where the handle it looks like or has a little as etched picture of Jimmy Carter.
why'd you pick Carter? Come on.
I don't know. I was fishing for something, and that's the
I
first
know,
thing
I
that
know.
popped in my
I'm
head
just-
was Jimmy
I'm
Carter
just-
for some.
I'm just
Maybe I have a
joking,
fear
yeah.
of Jimmy Carter. I don't know. He builds
The card
houses.
itself-
Like I don't know.
The card itself seems pretty good. I mean,
Yeah.
smack for 4, and then uh, possibly have that static effect. That seems pretty good. But like you said, as far as I don't really have the phobia, so there's only so much I can say about that.
Yeah. Like I've heard of people, excuse me, being afraid of like open flame, or being afraid of causing a fire or being caught in a fire, but not necessarily burning alive specifically.
Sorry, I just almost thought of the inverse of Smokey Bear. Only you can cause forest fires, and I'm like, oh no, that's too much pressure, man. Come on.
That would be the Eldrazified or the Phyrexianified Smoky Bear.
The completed Smokey
There we go.
Bear.
That's the word. Thank
now
you.
I'm gonna have now that's a nightmare. That's a nightmare right there.
Only you can start forest fires.
Oof. All right. So now we've got Chewy's favorite fear.
Yeah, this is the Wizards of the Coast marketing plan.
Yeah.
But I just read one, so someone else read it.
So it's the fear of missing out, or FOMO. For 1 and a red, it is a 2/3. Now this is an interesting card. I've seen it. When fear of missing out enters, and it's a rare, discard a card, then draw a card. So rummage. Delirium. Whenever fear of missing out attacks for the first time each turn, if there are 4 more card types among cards in your graveyard, untap target creature. After this phase, there's an additional combat phase. Excuse me, it's up past my bedtime. So this has to attack for that ability to trigger, and it's not a huge creature, but it could be they need to block something else instead, like the fear of being hunted, or just the thing that's gonna kill them. So honestly, with a lot of the delirium stuff, the question I have is it good enough without delirium? Because delirium can be tricky. There are ways to set it up in this set. There's a lot of surveil, there's some self-milling, just playing the game long enough. Manifest Dread can get stuff in there.
Yep.
But the question is, if you don't get there, is the card good enough? And would you play a 2/3 for 2 that rummages? I think I would.
Yeah.
I think I would. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I
So,
would honestly though be annoyed that if this was one of my rares
yeah, I can see that.
in limited, because I don't think it's that great. But then if my red was good, I'd play it.
Yeah. I think it's fine. I think it's safe. It's not one of these weird red rares that has an effect that you don't always want. You're pretty much always going to want to play this. And heck, even if you draw it late, if you have anything else in your hand, like a land that you can just pitch, you're good with it. So I think it's good pretty much whenever. I don't think it's amazing, but I think it's solid. And sometimes in red, solid is what you want.
Yeah.
It's a solid creature.
Especially since this is a red rare enchantment creature.
It is.
I do like that it's enters the battlefield ability, helps with delirium too.
Yes.
Yeah. But I mean, I personally have been complaining about how Wizards preys on FOMO for marketing for years now, unfortunately. And it's not going to stop anytime soon, especially since they've redone how secret lairs work to go back to the old way.
How did they change it before?
Oh, well, so originally there was a set number of them, and if you didn't get in and buy them quick, you're going to miss out. Fear of missing out. And then they swapped it over to, okay, we're going to have it open for this window of time, and we'll print it to order. But then it was taking months for people to get the stuff they ordered, and people weren't happy about that. So then they went back to the old way.
Okay. I have never bought a secret lair, so I appreciate the explanation.
Yeah, I wasn't aware that they were making the most recent change until I found out that the Monty Python stuff, which was the first secret lair anything that I had wanted in quite a while, sold out in like 30 minutes, and it completely killed my interest in ever bothering with it again.
Yep. That makes sense, because it's awful.
So, cards fine. I don't know that any of us have this fear.
I mean,
think,
we all have.
There have been times.
We all have the fear of missing out of some things, you know.
That's true.
Yeah, but for me, when I was in college and then at other points here and there in my adulthood, if I would get involved in some kind of like online message board or something, sometimes I would get a compulsion to like read everything and stay up to date on every little thing and every little subform, even if it was something I didn't really care about, and that burned up a lot of time. Sometimes I would have to peel myself away and like force myself to stop visiting it, or force myself to only read certain areas to get away from the problem. It was a kind of fear of missing out, of just not knowing what's going on.
I get that.
Yeah. And there was a time when back when we were still playing Magic. You remember, I'm sure Brian remembers this, where Sam had strep. And we were supposed to get together like the next day, and I'm like, strep throat when I was a kid jumped on me constantly, like I'm sure fully half, if not more, of the days of school I missed were because of strep. And I called Mom, because I was actually out driving for the dealership with the old man at the time. And I called Mom and said, hey Mom, how many of the days I missed from school would you say were because of strep throat? She goes, oh geez, probably 90%. And I was like, what? So I didn't.
Yeah,
I was like, I'm not gonna come play Magic with y'all. I'm sorry. And then I didn't, and it bugged me because, you know, all my friends were all getting together, and I wasn't going. And I hated that, but I also didn't want to get. And then it turns out Sam did in fact still have strep, and I felt vindicated.
Ah.
And then the world ended. Well, no, the world didn't end for quite a while till after that, but still. But yeah, like we all have a FOMO of some sort about something. Like we don't want to miss.
That is true.
Something out there. What I don't have it for is marketing nonsense, though. But I mean, even then, I do. Whenever I see, like, I put games on my wish list on Steam. Like whenever I see something, like, oh, if this ever goes on sale, I'll think about picking it up. And then when something goes on sale, it's like on sale for 3 more days, and I'm like, am I gonna buy it? Should I buy it? Should I buy it? I'm like, am I gonna play this anytime soon? No, I'm not. Because I've got a billion games that I want to play, and it's not even on the list of games that I want to play right now. But I'm like, should I go ahead and pick it up while it's on sale? Most recently, it was the freaking Metal Gear Solid Master Collection, Volume 1. When I think it's right now, it's on sale for like, I don't know, 40% off on some game selling site. And I'm like, oh, that's really good. Should I get that? And I'm like, do I have time to play any of the Metal Gear games right now? No. Should I get that while it's on sale, though? And they know this. That's why there's such a thing as limited time sales.
Yep.
But anyway. Are we done with the
Okay.
FOMO card?
I think we're done with the FOMO card.
Okay. So, there's only one in green. Oh, and there's one in multicolor. Okay.
Yep.
All right, who's up? I forget.
Maybe.
Okay, you read the green
Fear
one
of
then.
Well, it's the only green one, so I was gonna get it anyway, wasn't I?
Pretty good.
Fear
chance,
of exposure, which is okay. For 2 and 1 green, it's a 5/4 that's uncommon, and as an additional cost to cast this spell, tap 2 untapped creatures and or lands you control, and it has trample.
Oh, okay. I was like, why is it a 5/4 for 3? Oh, because it's not. It's a 5/4 for 5.
Or it's a 5/4 for
Basically.
3 that also turns on your survival creatures.
Ah, there is that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The set has a lot of those little ways to do that.
And survival triggers in your second main phase, right?
Yeah. And
Yes.
there's no requirement that the creature doesn't have summoning sickness or anything like that. So you can play it and then follow it up with something like this. I actually have been working, since I've done a couple drafts on Arena, I've been working on a mount survival deck, because the mount creatures from Thunder Junction, just you can tap them whenever. It's like piloting a vehicle. So you can play a creature with survival, mount the other creature. You don't even have to attack with the mount, and then at the beginning of your second main phase, it triggers. And there's a creature in survival here that, if we have any more time, we'll talk about, where if it's tapped at the beginning of second main phase, you put a permanent from your hand onto the battlefield. So yeah, I've been having fun with that, but I'm still working on the deck. But this is a neat little way, especially in limited, to be like, have a chunky creature that is undercosted, and heck, even if they keep blowing up your other stuff, you can't pay for the alternate cost. You can still do this for 5. And it's a 5/4 with trample. If a 5/5 for 5 in black is fine, that may occasionally have menace and death touch, that's great. This is a 5/4 with trample. So seems pretty good. And the fact that it enables other stuff is just great.
Yeah. And fear of exposure, I'm sure it's another one of those things, sort of like the fear of surveillance. It's just a thing that we live with in this day and age.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Like, I'm sure most people have something that they do or say or something that they don't want to get out. You know, something you do when it's just you and your significant other that would sound ridiculous out of context, or I don't know, something like that. Like, hey Mike, what if I had access to your entire browser history from the time you were 12?
There'd be some embarrassing stuff.
And
See,
it's
exactly.
good that you admit that.
Even if you had a list of like all the things I'd laughed at since I was 12, there'd be some embarrassing stuff in
Oh God, yeah. I was looking. I scrolled back too far in my favorite videos on YouTube, and was like, "Oh my God!" Like stuff
That was
that
just
makes the
yesterday.
Juggernaut bitch look tame. I was like, "Okay." Hey Mike, we ain't ever gonna make it.
I was thinking that exactly. Oh God.
Yeah. That is some exposure that I'm not cool with. I noticed you other two being awful quiet. What secrets do you have that you don't want exposed?
I just know better than to say them out loud.
Yeah.
But
It's like, I'm good.
I'm secretly a horrible human being, but maybe that's not a secret, so
I think
I'll just
going
leave
through
it
my
alone.
phobias was exactly that for me.
Oh, have we exposed you, Dirk?
Yeah, all my fears.
Ugh. Well, let's knock out the last one then. The fear of infinity. This one, I think, is like a normal human fear that I'm pretty sure, faced with actual infinity, all of our brains would break, like as a
Yeah.
species.
It's interesting because I feel like it's there. This is one of these divides where you either covet this or you're afraid of it, and I think it can even be one leading into the other.
Ah, like the picture. I mean, the art. So, fear of
The or
infinity,
see.
for one, a blue and a black, is an uncommon 2/2 with flying, lifelink, and it can't block. So, for 3 mana, flying and lifelink can't block. That's, yeah, alright, that's fine. But it has an eerie ability. Whenever an enchantment you control enters, and whenever you fully unlock a room, so eerie, you may return Fear of Infinity from your graveyard to your hand. Dun dun dun. Yeah, block and kill it all you like, man. I'll get it right back. I'll get it right back. Oh, look, it's the Fear of Infinity. You remember the Fear of Infinity?
I just had a thought about something. What's it called? Okay, I'm right. There's this weird old Johnny-ware from Urza Saga called Attunement. It's an enchantment that costs 2 and a blue, and it has an activated ability. The cost is to return attunement to its owner's hand. And the effect is draw 3 cards, then discard 4 cards.
I remember that, yeah.
I don't remember that.
I mean, you need a full grip of these to make it work, but that'd be a crazy attunement engine.
That would be pretty gross. Hey, one buried alive. Get you most of the way there, man.
Yeah, you're right.
Build the deck, Mike.
Oh, they so should have had a fear of Buried Alive and just made it a riff on Buried Alive.
I was wondering about saying that earlier, and we kept going. But like, is that a fear of searching your library for 3 cards and putting them
Would
into
that
your
be
graveyard?
too good in this type of set?
Yeah, because it could give you near instant delirium because
of
there are
artifact
also-
creatures and
there are-
enchantment creatures.
Yeah, artifact
Yeah.
creatures, enchantment creatures. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even if you just, do 2 instead of 3, like, still, you could get 3 out of 4 delirium with that
Mhm.
if you build your deck properly.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe if instead of doing it to yourself, it would you could do 2 to an opponent or something. That'd be safer.
Oh, yeah. Huh. So back to the fear of infinity. I'm all right. There is a Vsauce video. For those of you who don't YouTube, you should look up Vsauce because a lot of his videos are educational and like weirdly funny and will probably break your brain. But there's one in particular called Counting Past Infinity, or How to Count Past Infinity, something like that, where he talks about what infinity is and then the different sizes of infinity because there are different sizes of infinity. Did you know that countable infinity is an infinity where, given some amount of time, you could go from any one point on it to another by counting? So, like, that period of time might take, longer than the universe will last, but it is possible.
Yeah, and you could also map it 1-for-1 to the set of integers.
Yeah. And then there's uncountable infinity. And, like, this was a thing that I figured out, I don't know, sometime in, like, high school, that there are more numbers between 0 and 1 than there are integers, the counting numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, whatever. And that goes on forever. And there's still more between 0 and 1 than there are. So that's uncountable infinity. And he then goes on to, like, talk about the different infinities past that, and how once you hit a certain size of infinity, you can just multiply it and get more and more bigger infinities. And the ability to conceive of that sort of thing takes some work. Like, you can't just start at never thinking about the infinite and then go to understanding what the hell he's talking about in just a split second. Like, you have to put in some effort on, hold on, what? And it's a really good video. I highly recommend that everybody should watch it. But I don't know why. Because of infinity. But I really do think that because just conceiving of it takes work. Like, because our brain can't comprehend numbers with more than a few zeros. Once you get up to about 1 billion, people start to lose the concept. Like, you keep seeing these things of, if you make all these dollars every single day and you were born, when Jesus was born, you still wouldn't be as rich as Elon Musk. Like, the reason people put it in those terms is because we can't conceive of numbers that large. Like, 1 billion is 1,000 millions? All right. No, that's not all right. That's a ridiculously large number, and that's not even the start of it. And I think if we were ever, like, faced with actual infinity, I don't think the human mind can comprehend it. I think that a little light would go off, and we would just drool until we died. You're welcome. That could just be me, though. What do you guys think? Do you have a fear of infinity?
I didn't before, but now my brain is just like, there's a reason I'm not a mathematician.
Like, no, I'm actively fascinated about it, and I love reading stuff about that.
Oh, yeah. Me too. Like, I used to watch that video to go to sleep to. Like, that's how twisted I am. Be like, I'm gonna go to sleep now. Do I want to watch the how to count past infinity, or do I want to watch the Banach-Tarski paradox video? Which also deals with infinity.
I don't think that makes you twisted. I think that would probably also put me to sleep, but for different reasons.
For me, it's because it's comforting. Like,
for me, it would be like, I am following this, and now I am asleep. Brain just is like, you know what? No. You tried. Gold star. No. Peace. So those are all the fears, at least all the fears that we see in this set.
yeah.
From the story, I will say, I'm not going to say what happens at the end of the story, but is it conceivable we will come back to this setting of Duskmourn?
I was gonna say it's at the top of the screen.
At the top. What do you mean it's at the top of the screen?
Well, it sounded like you were searching for the name of the set, so I was reminding you.
No,
just
no,
go to
no.
the top, you'll see it.
No, I'm good. I didn't say the wrong one this time. I wanted to make sure I could say it without saying the wrong one. Duskmourn Hollow
Or
will.
what is it? Dirk
something.
keeps saying.
Duskwalla Marsh.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
Brian is eager to get off of Infinity. Did you notice that? Mm-hmm.
I don't really have anything else to say. I mean, it is Infinity, so I guess I have all the things to say about it. But
someone pointed out in the chat way earlier, I think it was Chifuji, that you could easily replace fear in these with the word kami. And the art, you wouldn't even have to change the art on any of them. And I think he's right. Because you remember how the kami arts were all, just weird creatures. Weird, surreal creatures, just like all of these.
Yeah.
Like Fear of Exposure, especially to me, it looks like a kami.
And see, the funny thing is, a second after you said it, I was like, "Oh, Kami, yeah, Kami, not like
Oh yeah,
what
not
McCarthy
like communist.
was called. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Sorry.
That's something else.
I'm sorry.
Well, and we were talking about fear and fear of the unknown and that sort of stuff, and I was like, "Where's he going with this? This is kind of fascinating." But
The communist of failed tests. What? Sorry, I forget you guys can't see the words that I'm saying in my head, or in your head, like I can. And homophones are a thing. That's gay phones, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
Yes.
you don't even want to know what a biphone looks like.
Get this woke crap out of here. So what are some fears? Like, obviously, fear of spiders isn't here, although we do have that one creepy doll that's covered in spiders. So I guess that was covered there.
Fear of being buried alive is not here, which, again, from my personal experience, something I've struggled with, and I believe others have as well. So that's kind of an interesting omission. And yes, I know that I don't know how they would do it when they so clearly have the card buried alive. I think they could still do it, but they'd have to separate it. But yeah, what other fear of drowning? Some people have fear of drowning, right?
Yep.
I feel like that would be a thing.
I mean,
what is
I'm surprised there's not a big blue creature. I guess there's not really a sea in this place since it's essentially a giant haunted house.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, but
like a thalassophobia type of thing.
There are like pools. Apparently the house was a haunted house, but after it absorbed some people's souls, it gradually expanded to take over the plane.
Man, I hate it when that happens.
Yeah, isn't there like the demon was confined to the house, but he found a loophole to just keep making the house grow bigger?
Yeah, basically this girl, and she's a legendary creature in the set, agreed to let him out, but when she saw what he was doing, she kind of halfway did it, where his powers could expand but not past the limits of the house. So he's like, okay, cool, the house is now the world. And what he is doing in the story is he started to open portals to other worlds thanks to the omen paths and whatnot. They came across a scroll that had Tamio's memories in it, and Tamio was all about stories. So she's all like, look at all these places I've been to, and Valgavoth was like, oh really? Please tell me all about them. So through the scroll, he's becoming aware of these other places, and expanding into them as best as he can, and what started as a rescue mission for Nashi is turning into like a kind of almost like a here we go again, another realm breaker sort of incident. So
Hmm.
I see what time it is. Do we want to try to cover
No.
any other just no.
No. This will be a fears episode. If we want, we can come back next week and do more Duskmourn. I didn't think it would take us this long, but also, you know how we are.
Yeah.
Well,
When
yeah,
we
because
started on the first one and we took a while, I was like, all right. Go ahead.
well, we had a
Mike,
lot
what
of
were you saying?
interesting other stuff to talk about, not just reading
We
cards.
we did. And we started to say, and I didn't mean to cut us off, were there other fears that we have had that we don't feel like were represented? We named a couple, but I didn't mean to cut that conversation short if you guys had other ideas.
Yeah, I'm
Was it
surprised.
tridecaphobia?
Ha!
Triskaidekaphobia.
Triskaidekaphobia.
Triskaidekaphobia, which has come up in my life a couple times since then, like on Jeopardy. I'm like, what is triskaidekaphobia? Carrie's like, why do you know that? I'm like, magic. So,
Because it's magic.
yeah,
She's like,
yeah. But that already exists as a card.
Oh, I
They
know.
could reprint it.
And they
That'd be
missed
a
that
cool
opportunity.
callback.
FOMO.
Jesus.
Magic missed their own FOMO moment.
Magic missed a FOMO moment. That's kind of a, that's
They
kind of
missed
an
out on
interesting
this opportunity.
concept.
Reprint a card.
I'm sure they didn't miss. I'm sure they were well aware.
Oh, more than likely, yeah.
Yeah, I'm surprised there's not like a, I don't know, fear of the depths, a thalassophobia, fear of. There is a fear of the dark. A fear of what was I had like 3 in my head, and then it dropped one. Oh, like a fear of abandonment. I'm surprised there's not something that, like, I don't know, bounces something to somebody's hand, or I guess exiles it would probably be better.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's close enough to fear of isolation.
Yeah, isolation and
but no,
abduction covered that sort of.
but it is an interesting
That's true.
distinction. So
Yeah, there's are there any other fears that, while we're being, exposed here, are there any other fears that we have that aren't here? Like I already mentioned, there's no spiders. And there's no abandonment, which I'm not sure if that's a fear that I have exactly, but it's a thing that I worry about occasionally. You guys will never leave me, right?
Right.
not yet. We
No.
haven't yet. So I mean,
That's true.
I don't know how you would do this, but there are people that are afraid they will never be loved. That's probably a little too deep for this. But
Fear of crowds.
no. So Chewie mentioned under the fear of immobilizing or whatever. I've moved away from it.
Immobility. Yeah.
Immobility. You mentioned claustrophobia. Well, there's agoraphobia.
Yeah. What would a fear of open places look like? Well, like, what would that card do?
You take damage whenever you play a land.
Every time you play a land, something happens.
Would it be a land? Or like if you
I
controlled
feel-
no other creatures? I guess that's probably more like along the lines of isolation, but yeah, that would be more lands.
I feel like we're both coming to that conclusion. So. Yep.
Oh well, I'm just trying to dig into more of
Yeah.
my co-hosts' psyches here is really what
Oh
I'm
no,
doing.
you're good. I'm just struggling. I'm trying to think of other fears that I've had, and I feel like we've kind of covered everything pretty well.
It makes me
So-
wish I remembered the scene well enough to rattle off that list that Lucy goes through with Charlie Brown in the Christmas special, because that was a funny scene.
It's been a long time since I've seen that film.
Yeah, I have absolutely no recollection of what you're talking about, which kind of bugs me that I have no memory of this. Is she rattling off things that are wrong with him or things that might be wrong with him?
No, she's rattling off possible fears he might have when he comes to the psychiatric help booth.
I think I know.
Manaphobia.
The
Do you have
booth you're
manaphobia?
talking
He
about.
says, "What's that?"
Yeah.
The fear of everything. And he sarcastically just shouts at her, "That's it!" And then they start talking about something else.
Man, Lucy sucks.
I know.
Oh well. I guess the dorks don't want to give up anymore.
I mean,
trauma,
I feel like I've already said what some of my stuff, and I'm just not recalling anything else. So.
Yeah, we've talked. I think the only comments I hadn't made for stuff that we've already talked about is like, if something gets me thinking about a buried alive situation, which isn't actually a card, then that's something I will worry about for more minutes than I care to, more minutes than makes sense, until I can get my mind on something else. And for the dark, I've become pretty afraid of the dark if for some reason I get the idea in my head that there's something in the dark that I can't see, even if I know full well that it's not there and not even real. But my brain is like, oh, there's a scary thing in the dark, because that was supposed to have helped me when, people were living outside in the wilderness in the dark night, and there might be something out there. But no, stop it, brain. You live in a house, and the door has been locked for hours, and so have all the windows. Stop it.
Oh, sure. I mean, so much fear comes from this very primal survival instinct. Like, okay, I thought of one. I still can't stand for anything to come near my eyes. Like, when I go to the optometrist, I have to steel myself. So.
Oh yeah.
Good luck getting contact in my eye. I'll take your hand off first. So. Yeah. Think about how many people were probably uncomfortable when we looked at the eye card last week, the giant floating eye. How many people were probably
I've got an even more clear example. So a few days ago, Renee was here and she goes, "Wait, look over there." So I turned my head to look over there and she goes, "No, look at me." So I look at her. She goes, "No, look over there." And I turn my head. She's like, "No, look at me." I look at her. She said, "Point your eyes over there." So I point my eyes over there and she goes, "What'd you do?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And she goes, "Look in the mirror." And I could sort of kind of see something in my eye. And I'm like, "I don't know. What is it?" Because I couldn't see it. Because, I have to have my eyes pointed at the mirror in order to see it. So she took a picture of my eye up close. And there was like a burst blood vessel in my eye. She goes, "What'd you do?" I was like, I don't know. I was like, "How long's that been there?" She was like, "I don't know. I just saw it." I was like, "What the hell?" And so I was like, "Send me that picture." And, I looked at it. I was like, huh. And then when I woke up the next morning and I posted it in the Discord, I was like, "Renee just found this in my eye." And then the next morning I got up and it had moved to where I could see it. It was like right next to the what's the colored part of the eye called?
Iris.
Thank you. It had moved over next to the iris, so it was, obvious. And I was like, oh. So I took a picture with my phone and I posted it in Discord. I'm like, "Look, it moved in the night. That's weird." And there was one response and that was it. And then a couple days later, someone was like, "Could someone let me know when those eye pictures scroll by?" And I'm like, huh? I've got this eye thing. And I was like, oh, really? So I typed a bunch of messages to scroll the screen, and then other people typed some messages so it was off the screen on PCs too, And then another person popped in
without realizing.
Yeah, and another person popped in with, "Yeah, thanks for that, y'all." And I was like, and then someone else goes, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's just a spot in my eye. There was no pain or discomfort. It wasn't an injury. It was just a thing that happened." And people are like, whoa. I was like, is that I didn't know people had eye things. This was a revelation to me, and it just happened a couple days ago. So yeah, apologies anyone in the Discord. I thought it was neat that I had this thing in my eye that I had no knowledge of, and the only reason I knew about it is because Renee spotted it. And then I thought it was neat again that it moved. So I was just trying to share the neat thing, like, hey, look at this. And people were like, no. And I'm like, oh, sorry. I didn't know that was, huh. My bad. Like, I get the not being able to touch your own eye. Like, I could never do contacts either. I can barely do eye drops. I mean, I don't do eye drops unless things are horrible. Like, my old man, he turns 80 this year. He can't put drops in his eyes. He has to get mom to do it. And mom goes, because, you know, she likes to torture the old man. And in this case, it's literal torture because he absolutely hates it. But when his eyes get real dry, he knows he can't do it. So he gets her to do it. And whereas mom is, you know, mom wore contacts for years and then it's just not a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
But so I understand that, but eyes in general, I didn't know that was a thing.
No.
Like I know that
didn't either,
gruesome
but
eye
I can't
things.
say I'm surprised.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised. It just never occurred to me. Like I know gruesome eye things like the eyeball surgery thing in, I think, is it Dead Space 2 or 3? I forget which one. Like I can get that making you nope out of the room because that's, but it's just a picture of my eye with a little red spot. Like, I didn't. Sorry again. I did not even think that would be a thing. So yeah. So yeah, the big blue flying eye could totally be like fear of eyeballs or something. I forgot what they named it, but you can see it here in the background of our video. Anyway, should we stop? We should stop.
Yeah, we should.
Oh, there we go. I thought my
Yeah,
headset
let's do
died
that.
again. All right. Well, how about some final thoughts then, and everybody can go to bed and have nightmares. I mean, get some sleep. Dirk?
I guess the big thing that I've got going on is all the fun hurricane stuff that's going on right now.
Oh yeah, we are currently experiencing Hurricane. Helene? Is that right?
I believe so.
Yes.
Which I didn't even know about until Brian said, "Yeah, if I've still got power and internet, then I'll be on." And I was like, "Why wouldn't you have internet?" He's like, "Because of the hurricane." I'm like, "Is that today?" Because I'm dumb.
Well, I mean, it's not a major thing unless it becomes a major thing. There was lots of discussion at work today about students being like, so if we're not going to be here tomorrow, what is the plan? Because one of my classes is supposed to take a test tomorrow. And so they were trying to convince me that, there is no school tomorrow. What exactly is the plan? And they're all being like, please don't give us a test on Monday. Just whatever you... Please don't give us the test on Monday. Which is really what they were getting at, but... Yeah. I told them they wouldn't get a test on Monday.
Yeah, give it to him on Tuesday.
That's actually what I told them. It's like, it's not on Monday, it's Tuesday. And they were like, we'll do that.
What? Okay, why don't they want to test on Monday? They've had all weekend to study for it. Like, seems like a good time. Am I out of
Because
touch?
they're all like, we're not going to study for this over the weekend.
Oh,
Yeah,
there's
that's
that.
the
Yeah,
thing.
okay.
That's yeah. It's an extra day to study. Should they?
But it's the weekend,
choose
damn it.
to.
Yeah.
But it's the weekend.
Yeah.
We're not going to do this. I'm like, I okay. And because I'm actually being nice to this class, I'm like, okay, yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, people were asking, I hope everybody there's all right. I'm like, I mean, we're just getting rain here in North Carolina.
Yeah.
It's just there's going to be some flash flooding, but other than that,
Tomorrow is going to be when we're going to get most of the rain,
yeah,
and where the conditions will we'll see what happens. But we're not going to be like extreme winds or anything like that. It's supposed to hook away from us,
yeah.
but we're going to still get tons of rain.
I mean, even if it came straight at us, like being over land, it's going to weaken. So it's by the time it gets, because it's down in the Gulf, right? This isn't one that's hitting from.
Yeah, one in the Gulf.
It's hitting or about to hit Florida pretty badly.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a category 3, so it is a big one. Um, but it's not there yet, or I don't think it is. And by the time it gets to us, of course, the longer a hurricane is over land, the more it weakens. So
Yeah. All right then.
yeah, I would definitely send your concern somewhere else. We should hopefully be just fine.
Yeah.
Next.
Next.
That'd be me. I guess I'm not as caught up in the hurricane stuff. Things seem to be calm here now, although we'll see how it is tomorrow. I've moved some pretty big cases lately. I had one of the most emotional ends to a jury trial I've ever had in 14 years. Two weeks ago, it was crazy. I'm not gonna go a whole lot into it because I told Chewy the whole story, and the whole story takes like a half an hour, and he had some questions and comments, which I appreciated. Um, but it was a very emotional ending, and at the end of the day, the state's witness, the victim in the case, I can't say alleged victim because the jury has seen this through, had an amazing display um, of willpower and really, I think, grace in that case, and made a request of the presiding judge to show leniency to a young man that shot her. He did not shoot her because he knew her. In fact, he did not he did not know her, and she didn't know him. And to stand there 2 years later and ask for leniency for him was inspiring. So my job definitely there are a lot of my day in day out of my job is usually not that high pitched. It's usually like speeding charges, minor assault cases, shoplifting, drugs, things like that. But this was one of those moments where it was like, wow. So had a couple other higher profile cases lately that we've managed to conclude. So that's always good. So this week has been more of the calm in the eye of the storm. I've got a couple big cases next week, including a murder charge that we'll see what happens with that. Not for trial. I would absolutely know that. I don't have any scheduled jury trials for the rest of this calendar year, which is good because I can get caught up on like the 30 other cases I got appointed to when all this other stuff was happening. I'm tired. But my job can be rewarding, and even and just getting to work with people. I always like it when we can reach a good result, but I always try to do the best I can, and that what that is varies from case to case. So ultimately, I'm doing okay. I'm tired. I've had some high highs and some low lows, but I'm still here. I went to a pre-release with Sam. She asked to go. I've made it clear I thought she was going to choose to go to youth group, and she's like, no, I haven't. She looked at the cards with me. She went through like all of blue because she wanted to see everything that was doing, and she said, I want to go. And I said, then we're going. We only left early so we could get to mom and dad's spaghetti, which is awesome. But had a good time, had a great time with Sam. That's what I got for my final thought.
All right. Mike?
Oh, and
Oh.
well, you know what? No, never mind. I'm good. Go ahead, Mike. I'm just gonna keep going. So I'm gonna be quiet.
It's good to be back to talk to the guys again. Had a great vacation. Took a lot of getting used to the first couple days back at work, making sure I understood what the heck was going on. And of course, now that I'm actually back at work, I started to develop some kind of head cold. At least I didn't have it on the trip. That would have been terrible.
Oh, I told you. Gonna get COVID on the what's the thing cruise?
Happened to me.
I hope you don't have COVID though.
It's a bunch of congestion, and my chest feels fine, so I think that means it's not COVID. I think that means it's just a cold, but who knows what it's mutated into over the years. But anyway, yeah, I forgot exactly when the pre-release was, but I guess I should have expected that it was one of these past few weekends, since the Duskmourn cards have become available on Arena. I've had fun with that, playing a few games, but yeah, nothing much else. It's good to be back again.
Nice.
We're glad to have you back.
Yeah, I can't believe you left me with just these two for. Well, it was only one episode, but still.
Was it just one?
I know that Chew's going to go through a bunch of stuff, and I do care about it, but I am being called away. So, gentlemen, listeners, thank you so much for being with us, and keep listening to these guys. Gentlemen, I'm going to head out. I'll talk to you all later.
Night, B.
Right.
Yep. He's being called away. Wink, wink. Nudge, nudge. I don't really have much. I started streaming Kingdom Hearts, like I said. I forgot how slow the beginning is. Like, I know it was slow, but I didn't think it was that slow. Jesus. And then I forgot how much I hated the basic ass combat of the original Kingdom Hearts before you get spells. And even after you get spells, that doesn't change much. It's just a lot of hammering on the attack button.
Uh-huh.
But, you know, it's the first one, and it's from the PS2, so I'm just sort of dealing with it. Although, there's no excuse for the platforming to be as bad as it is. Oh my god. I can't wait to get high jump or glide or anything, because trying to get around in the Tarzan stage had me pulling out my hair.
That's why, for the most part, I don't even worry about it until I get those.
But also the just the way that the worlds are set up, like the Tarzan stage is where I realized it, is that it doesn't, for most of the time, it doesn't give you any sort of clue where you're supposed to go. It's just like, oh, there's something, go. And I'm like, go where? And it's like, go. So you wander around until you find something. And then a cutscene happens, and then there's a fight with Heartless or whatever. And then you're done. And it's like, okay, go. Go where? I don't know, just go. So you wander around until you go back to another place, and another cutscene happens. And that's when I realized, oh, right, in this world, you're just supposed to crisscross the map over and over and over until you fight a final boss and get to leave. Like, go to the camp. Go to the trees. Go to the treehouse,
yeah.
go to the camp, go to that the other end of the map over there that's 2 rooms over, go to the camp, go back to the treehouse, go over here, and I'm like, and nothing is clear. Like there's one room where there are a bunch of flowers, and it's like, oh, I wonder how you open them. I wonder what happens if they all open. So I've opened them all, because you have to hit them with a magic spell to open it. And I opened them all on the map. I tried to once, and I ran out of magic. And there was one left closed, and I was like, damn it. And I came back later, and I was like, oh, I can do this now, because I thought it was a puzzle that would like make a chest open or something. And I opened them all, and nothing happened. And I was like, huh? And then later, there's like it's not a boss fight exactly, but there's a big-ass black fruit. And Jane is there with the little gorilla. And I was like, oh, it must be something here. Like, if I do this, then the enemies will stop coming or something. And I opened them all up, and nope. I still have no idea what I was supposed to do with the flowers. It took me forever to figure out. I just had to beat on the giant fruit. And when the giant fruit popped, the fight was over. I was like, this is so stupid. Like... Like, I thought I had to do something to make the fruit go away. No, I just beat on it. This wasn't a puzzle. This is brute force. And I was trying to treat it like a puzzle. And I was like, what? Because it didn't say, hit the fruit or anything. They're just like, oh my god, it's a big black fruit. And I was like, okay. I guess that's scary. I don't know. And I kept having to remind myself it's a PS2 era game. It's not modern. I had to turn off the auto lock on because I would be not lock on, like there's a button you press to lock on, but there's a setting to where you'll automatically just lock on in a sort of haphazard way, not a permanent way, to an enemy that's close to you. So I'd be trying to swing at this enemy over here, and the auto lock would have attached to this enemy over here by itself. So I'm trying to do a combo to hit multiple enemies. Instead, I'm just swinging at the air. I'm like, why are you locked over? Until finally I found the setting and turned it off. And I kept trying to like turn, like swing, and then turn and hit this enemy that's coming up behind me. And you can't do that in this game. This game does not, it's not a modern action RPG. It's a PS2 era button masher. And once I wrapped my brain around that for the combat got a lot less frustrating. And then once I wrapped my brain around the fact that just if you don't know what to do, just go somewhere and something will happen. Oh, right. Okay. And now that's made the exploration, if you can call it that, less frustrating. But I've had to like regress how my video gaming brain has evolved. Because in this remaster, they didn't upgrade or update. There's no quality of life improvements or any of that. It's the old ass game. It's just slightly prettier.
Yeah, that's wandering around trying to find something to happen is a pretty old-fashioned game design at this point.
Yeah. And I'm really good at regressing my brain to like the 8 and 16-bit era of game design. But for some reason, this PS2 era, I can't. It doesn't happen automatically for me. I have to experience it, get frustrated, and realize it, and then force myself to regress that part of my brain. I can jump way far back, but I can't jump just a little while back. But I'm still enjoying it. Like, the story is already stupid and doesn't make any sense. And I'm in Kingdom Hearts 1. But, you know, and I'm at the beginning. Like, I just finished the Deep Jungle and went back and did the rest of the stuff in Traverse Town. So I'm on my way to, I think, the Colosseum, and then I think it's Agrabah. So I'm still at the beginning of the game.
Okay, yeah.
And so I've done Wonderland, the first part of the Colosseum, and the Deep Jungle, which is Tarzan's World. Is that everything? I think that's everything I've done. And now Traverse Town. And yeah, like I said, the story's already silly. None of the decisions anybody's making make any sense. But, you know, it's fun, and I'm here to see Disney stuff. I care zero about the greater lore of Kingdom Hearts. I'm going to play these games and enjoy them and not try to make any sense out of them, because you can't. And if you're like, well, actually, nope, you can't. You're trying too hard. Just play the game and enjoy it. And this is speaking from someone who loves deep dives into lore. Like, I know way too much about the world of Skyrim, the Elder Scrolls, and Tamriel. I know way too much history of that. Middle-earth? Oh, God. I know way too much about that. I am not above diving into deep lore. But the lore has to make sense, and Kingdom Hearts does not. It's dumb, and I hate it. But I love the games, so...
One time back in the day when Brian and I were driving down to Atlanta for a Grand Prix, he gave me a rundown of the Kingdom Hearts story because I was interested and we both knew we had a lot of time to burn. So, and it sure did burn a lot of time.
And that was before 3 came out.
Yes, that was before 3 came out.
So yeah, if you want, come hang out on stream. That's what I'll be playing for the foreseeable future until I beat it, unless I, jump over to, I don't know, do some, some more power washing or some more, what is that other game? Vampire Survivors or something. Other than that, it's going to be Kingdom Hearts until I'm done with it. And after that, then I'll probably jump into Final Fantasy VI finally, because I finished 5. I did do one stream of Sifu, and I realized that Sifu is really hard, and I'm going to have to, practice and play off stream, because the kind of practice and play I have to do, I can't do while I'm also trying to stream, like trying to be entertaining and interact with chat. I can't do all that and get good at Sifu. So I'm going to have to do that later, and I'll come back to Sifu in the future. It was really enjoyable, but it's hard as balls. Oh my God. I was like, oh, there's only 4 or 5 levels? Oh, this won't be bad. Yeah, I didn't make it past the second one. So, yeah. But all right then. So that's it for me. Remind everybody to check out the Heirs of Trivister playlist over on the YouTube channel. That's our RPG, that we just recently finished up. Because, I turned that in. I put all of the videos that weren't up, or all the episodes that weren't up, turned them into videos, put them on the YouTube channel, and now they're there so you can watch or listen to whatever, the whole RPG thing in one, well, not one go, because it'll take forever, but, it's all in one place for you to find. And I'm very excited about that. Yay. But also, don't forget to go to patreon.com/themanapool. You know the deal. And let me thank our patrons: Al, Kimho, Scuzzo, Jake Jansons, Michael. Who the hell is Michael? Timu Hellas Haru, Jason Kaus, Casey, Jason Doan. A lot of Jasons in here. ALK Alters, and Andrew Odie. Yay. Thank you all so very much. And, one more thing. I just want to complain that Humble Choice, Humble's monthly thing where, hey, here's the games you want. They charge at just random times of the month, because I didn't actually want any of the games this month. So I was gonna skip the month, so it wouldn't charge me. And they just randomly charged me, I think yesterday. No, the 24th. I'm like, why? So I went back to my bank account and looked at when they charged me. And the last several, the 31st, the 19th, I think the 19th was when I went ahead and grabbed the games. Whenever you go ahead and claim a game, it charges you for the month right then. So I think that's what that was, but it might not have been. The 28th, the 25th, the 29th, the 25th, the 13th. That was one where I definitely grabbed them early, because that was Sifu. And then the 24th. So it's just all over the map. It's not like, the last day of the month or whatever. I don't even think it's the last whatever day of the month, because the 24th was what? Tuesday. Like, what is this, M. Bison? It's not going to be the last Tuesday of the month. That doesn't make any sense. So yeah, I got charged my 12 or whatever dollars that I didn't want to be charged because it just was like, oh, here you go. So, but that does give me a bunch of games to add to the charity giveaway spreadsheet, including Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy, a game which I have no interest in, so I've added it to the spreadsheet. Yay. That's just a small complaint that I have, because it's not the first time that it's caught me. And I've been like, oh, well, there's $13 I'll never get back. Piss. But anyway. So, I have a fear of getting charged at random times. So, yeah, this has been... I think Dirk's asleep and Mike's bored to death. So, this has been episode 707 of the Manapool. Thank you all so very much for joining us. And what are you afraid of?